Jenny's neural interface flickered as the distress signal pierced through subspace. She stood on the bridge of the Concordance, humanity's first diplomatic vessel to the Galactic Council, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed gravitational anomalies near the Kepler 442 system. "Captain, we're receiving a Priority 1 emergency broadcast from the Vaxian colony on Kepler 442b, she announced, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "They're under attack by Krell raiders. 300 civilians, mostly younglings." Edward emerged from the tactical bay, his exosuit's servo motors whirring softly. Unlike the sleek, energy-efficient armor worn by other species, his gear was bulky, primitive by galactic standards, composite titanium plating over reactive gel layers. It looked like something from humanity's violent past, because it was. "How long until Council peacekeepers arrive?" he asked, already knowing the answer. 47 hours, Jenny replied, her jaw tightening. "The Vaxians will be gone in 3. The Galactic Council operated on mathematics, on calculated responses and measured interventions. Humanity had been members for only 2 standard cycles, barely enough time to understand the complex web of species that comprised the galaxy's governing body. But they'd learned one critical thing. The Council didn't move fast. They couldn't. When your civilization had existed for 10 million years, urgency became relative. Edward looked at Jenny, and she saw the decision already made in his eyes. They'd both been astronauts before the contact, before Earth had learned it wasn't alone. NASA had chosen them for the diplomatic corps precisely because they could remain calm under pressure. But calm didn't mean passive. "Plot a jump," Edward said quietly. "Sir, we're a diplomatic vessel. We have no weapons, no—" "I know what we have, Lieutenant Commander." He moved to the navigation console. "And I know what I am." Jenny initiated the quantum drive sequence, her fingers trembling slightly. The Concordance folded space, traversing 47 light-years in 17 minutes. When they dropped out of FTL near Kepler 442b, the situation was worse than reported. 6 Krell warships surrounded the agricultural colony, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons. The Krell were predators, evolved from pack hunters on a high-gravity world. They'd been raiding frontier colonies for centuries, and the Council's slow-moving justice system rarely caught them. "They've already breached the habitat domes," Jenny reported, scanning thermal signatures. "Vaxian life signs are clustering in the central shelter. They've got maybe 20 minutes of oxygen left." Edward was already moving toward the airlock. "Get me within 2 kilometers of their flagship." "Edward, you can't—" "Yes, I can." He locked his helmet into place. "Humans didn't join the Council because we were the smartest or the strongest. We joined because we survived. And we survived because when something needed doing, we did it." Jenny watched through external cameras as Edward ejected into the void. His suit's chemical thrusters, laughably primitive compared to anti-gravity propulsion, fired in precise bursts. The Krell hadn't noticed him yet. Why would they? No galactic species would be insane enough to assault a warship alone. But Edward wasn't from a galactic species. He was from Earth, where evolution had crafted persistence predators, where biology had created creatures that could run prey to exhaustion across endless savannas, where history had forged warriors who charged machine guns with bayonets, who held impossible positions against impossible odds, who had looked at the stars and decided that physics was more of a suggestion than a law. Edward's suit impacted the Krell flagship's hull. Magnetic clamps engaged. He crawled across the surface like an insect, beneath sensor range, until he reached the primary power coupling. From his equipment pack, he extracted something that made Jenny's blood run cold. C4 plastic explosive, a technology so crude that most species had abandoned chemical combustion weapons millennia ago. "Edward, if you breach their antimatter containment—" "I won't," he said calmly, placing shaped charges with practiced precision. Their containment fields are on a separate grid. This'll just knock out weapons and shields. How do you know their ship design? Because I've spent the last 2 cycles studying every species we might encounter. Sun Tzu said, "Know your enemy." That didn't become outdated just because we left Earth. The charges detonated in sequence. The Krell flagship went dark. Before the other ships could react, Edward was already moving to the second vessel. In the concordance, Jenny made her own calculations. She diverted all power to the communications array and broadcast on every frequency, identifying herself as a Galactic Council diplomatic vessel. "This is Captain Jenny Okonkwo of the Earth Delegation. You are in violation of Council law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Krell commander's response was predictable. Laughter. "Humans, your species has no military vessels. Your council membership is ceremonial. You cannot threaten us." Jenny smiled. "I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you." By the time the Krell understood what was happening, Edward had disabled 4 of their 6 ships. He moved through space with the efficiency of a special operations soldier because that's exactly what he'd been before NASA. Delta Force didn't advertise, but when humanity needed someone to protect their first contact team, they'd known who to call. The remaining Krell ships fled. Edward retrieved 43 Vaxian civilians personally, making multiple trips in his suit, carrying them through vacuum to emergency pods that Jenny deployed. When Council peacekeepers finally arrived, they found a diplomatic vessel and 2 humans who'd done the impossible. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Some called for humanity's expulsion. They'd acted without authorization, had demonstrated military capability while claiming diplomatic status. But the Vaxian delegation stood firm. They proposed a new resolution. "Humanity calls them special forces," the Vaxian ambassador announced to the assembled species. "Individuals trained to operate alone or in small groups to accomplish missions that entire fleets cannot. We propose that the Council establish a similar unit. And we propose that humans train them." The resolution passed. Not unanimously, nothing in the Council ever was, but it passed. Jenny stood beside Edward in the observation deck afterward, watching stars wheel past. "They're calling us the Krell word," she said quietly. "Do you know what it translates to?" "Crazy?" "Close. Those who run toward danger. They literally cannot conceive of it. Every species in the galaxy evolved to run from threats, to use technology and distance and time as shields. We're the only ones who evolved to chase down danger until it collapsed from exhaustion." Edward nodded slowly. NASA wanted explorers. The Council got something else entirely. "What's that?" "Hope," he said. "Every species out here is ancient, Jenny. They've forgotten what it's like to be young and desperate and willing to try anything. Maybe that's what humanity really brings to the galaxy, not our technology or our diplomacy. Our recklessness? Our courage," he smiled. "Same thing, really." 3 cycles later, the Galactic Special Operations Division graduated its first class. 50 trainees from 20 species, all taught by human instructors. They learned to act decisively, to operate without overwhelming support, to run toward danger instead of away from it. The galaxy had trembled when it learned what human special forces could do. It trembled more when it realized humans were willing to teach them.